Welcome to Yes, Quit Your Day Job, Real Talk for music industry creatives. On today's episode, we have powerhouse musician and record producer Sascha Konietzko. Not only is he a producer and multi-instrumentalist, he is the driving force behind KMFDM, the groundbreaking industrial band that's been pioneering industrial music since 1984. In addition to KMFDM, he's also spearheaded projects like Excessive Force, MDFMK, and Schwein. His music has also found its way into mainstream culture, appearing in films like Mortal Kombat, Bad Boys, and Johnny Mnemonic, as well as video games such as Mortal Kombat Annihilation and Brutal Legend. From underground clubs to Hollywood blockbusters, Sascha's relentless creativity has pushed boundaries for more than 4 decades. Let's get into it.
Hey, welcome to Yes, Quit Your Day Job. This is Seven Dunbar. Today's guest helped define an entire genre. He's the founder and force behind one of the most enduring and influential bands in the world, KMFDM. Since the 80s, has been forging noise into power, blending guitars with machines, and never letting up. Sascha, welcome. It's truly an honor to see you again.
Welcome.
Yeah, I guess jumping right into it. Let's go back to the beginning. What were the first sparks for you creatively? Like, was there a moment or a piece of gear, or were you setting out to do something specific?
I think the first time that I had access to a sampler, that was really the defining moment because, like before that, I played bass guitar in a couple of bands, and that was kind of boring. Everybody wanted to play sort of rock and roll stuff.
Yeah,
And the sampler just allowed me to really roll up my sleeves and do things that were, different. Very machine-like, very sequencer-based kind of, stuff with sound bits and, I don't know, little bits and pieces. I mean, the first samplers we had like, what, zero point 0.7 or 0.6 seconds sampling time.
yeah.
And when you turned the machine off, the sample was gone. So,
Oh,
so please, no power outages in the studio.
I
And, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's interesting because when I first started, obviously it was much later, but I started on bass as well, and we were in a band, in high school that was kind of like, um, again, very rock and stuff. But me and my friends, there was a local band at the time, which was Marilyn Manson, before they'd really blown up or anybody knew who they were, just in Florida. And we were going to their shows and they had the samples and everything. And we were like, how are they doing that? And
Right.
my drummer comes to rehearsal one day. He's like, I got us a sampler. We can do that. And what he got was a DW drum trigger that looks
Mm-hmm.
like a normal kick, but it's just a trigger. But we didn't know you had to hook it up to anything. So we're sitting there and we're hitting it and we're like, why is it making noise? Like, how do we get this thing working?
Yep.
And then finally somebody brought over an MPC and we had the same problem. We're hitting the pads and we're like, why doesn't it make sounds? What do we, we had to figure out how to get it working.
You got to
Um,
load the samples in. Yeah.
yeah. It took us a minute, but we
Right.
were off and running when that happened.
Yeah.
Um, in those early years, like pre-internet, pre-streaming, like you mentioned, you're not even able to save samples. What were the biggest challenges in building something from scratch?
It was so challenging that, I just basically gave up and put all my money onto like a sort of, what was that called? Like maybe a C-Lab, like a little thing that you plugged into a regular television, and it was a sequencer.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so before that, I used a SH-101, like a Roland SH-101
Love those. Yeah.
with the Roland 909, TR-909, and then those kind of things, they were independently syncing to each other. but you couldn't do much else. So I bought this kind of C-Lab card, and I bought a Emax sampler, and that was it. You know, it was so expensive. It cost like, I think, I don't know, 6,000 Deutsche Marks all in all, and it was astronomical amount of money. But all
Wow.
of a sudden, I could do things, and I sat in front of my big old black and white television and had all these like bars of sequencing, and it was really cumbersome. And oftentimes, more often than not, everything was not quite right in sync, and then you had to like go back and redo it note by note by note.
So
And
no quantization?
no, and then we had a 4-track cassette recorder, like a Fostex 4-track.
Okay.
So you could record a couple of things at a time and then mix it down on an empty track, and so forth and so forth. And you could really build things, but not before I went to a real recording studio did everything make sense. I mean, all of a sudden, it was okay, here's a keyboard that makes cool sounds, and here's another one that makes cool sounds too. And here's a tape machine, and and so spent the nights kind of with tape, like whoop, 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 make a mark. Hopefully that was a kick drum. Zzz, whoop, 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 cut, splice together, and
Yeah.
then play it. Doom, 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 doom. So it was a huge learning curve with very expensive equipment, and it took years to really get something going that kind of was, okay, this starts to sound pretty good now.
Wow. That's awesome. KMFDM has always had a strong visual and sonic identity, especially with the artwork, like Brute's artwork and stuff like that. How intentional was that from the beginning?
It wasn't intentional at all. It just happened to happen. We got introduced to Aidan Hughes in London in 1986, maybe early 87. And I really liked his style. And, for the next release, I contacted him, and he did do an artwork, and the next one as well. And then it dawned on me that this was really the visual brand for KMFDM. It was kind of like Coca-Cola. You could not mistake it for something else.
100%.
And
Yeah.
I think by now we have about 80 artworks from Boot, all in all, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You definitely nailed it with the branding. Like without even seeing the name or the letters, when you see that artwork, you already know what it is. You can spot it from, across the street or across a concert. I always, when I'm at shows or whether it's performing or in the audience, I can always in the crowd, like, oh, he's wearing a KMFDM shirt. It's kind
Yeah,
of a,
yeah. Yep. That's a nice side effect, yeah.
yeah. How do you define like industrial, and how's that meaning evolved with you over the decades?
I never thought of what I was doing as industrial. To me, industrial music was Throbbing Gristle, SPK, Einstürzen und Neubauten, that kind of stuff. But when I first came to the US in 1989, people told me, this, we call this industrial rock. And I was like, okay, so fine. I had defined it a couple of years earlier as ultra heavy beat, because
Yeah.
it sounded interesting. It sounded, kind of, well, up to the point. It was ultra heavy and beat based. So that's what I would call it to this day. I mean, KMFDM is so much, widely focused on all, all kinds of music and musical influences. It's not just one thing. It can be, one track can be a dub track, and the next one can be, fucking a drug against war. So,
Yeah.
I don't like myself to be pigeonholed like that. So, I try to throw everything in the kitchen sink in when I'm in the studio and just see what sticks.
Like, very nice. You've you've worked with a lot of different people. There's been a lot of people involved in KMFDM over the years. Um, Obviously, I'm guessing that shapes some of that collaborative vibe. It shapes the sound a little bit. What's the process like when you're bringing somebody new into the band, into this established sound that you've already had for decades?
Well, it's actually quite easy. We were just always, as much as possible, working in a modular way, so that we didn't have to sit in a rehearsal room or a studio. So early on, we started sending floppy disks or zip drives back and forth, and you know, now with the advent of the internet, we were able to transfer larger files. Um, but it was kind of like a very normal thing for everyone in KMFDM to work remotely from one another. So, you know, sometimes, okay, the FedEx guy wouldn't deliver on late on a Friday, so you had to wait till Monday morning before you got the results from someone that was living in, God knows, New York or Los Angeles.
Wow.
Um, but, you know, that's kind of how it works to this day. So I'm currently working with a guitarist in London, and you know, just send him some stuff over. He goes like 5 minutes later, he's got it downloaded, and 2, 3 hours later, he sends me something back and says, "How about this?" You know, and I'm like, "Yeah, cool, this is
Amazing.
fantastic." Yeah,
As you know, I interviewed Lucia not too long ago, and we were talking about when she had first come into the band and she was in New York and you were in Seattle. And I asked her, I was like, how did that even work? And she was like, oh, I would just do stuff over the phone. Now we don't even think about that. With things are so easy to communicate with people, across the world like we are.
yeah,
Um, that's
it's
interesting.
fantastic. I love it. You know,
Um,
a couple of years ago, I was working with a singer from Jamaica, and that was so awesome. You know, you just basically have a cam in the studio, you watch him do something, and then half an hour later, the guy sends the sound file over, and it's just like, wow, cool. It's
I, I
excellent.
I feel like at that point, time zones are probably one of the biggest obstacles.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only obstacle.
That's awesome. You've worked with a lot of great people. Is there any collaborations that stand out as particularly wild or difficult or unexpectedly
Yeah.
beautiful?
Nina Hagen was pretty wild and pretty beautiful. That was
Oh yeah,
Nina Hagen, yeah.
yeah.
Like, wow. No, that was excellent. That was definitely the wildest collaboration I can remember. It was
Very
three
quick.
days of 3 days of total mayhem.
Any specific stories or no?
Well, she liked to sleep late, and
Okay.
she had a fondness for red wine, quantities of red wine. So it made things, and very interesting.
As it does. Uh,
Yeah.
what does your creative process look like now compared to when you first started? I know we talked a little bit about just the advancement of technology. Are you still going for like chasing those same feelings in the studio?
Yeah, it's kind of like I excuse me. I collect sound bites when I'm on the road or when I'm watching a show on television or something. I collect these sound bites, and I write down lines, words, sentences. And when it comes time to make a song or start an album, I just take all these little bits and bobs, and I, you know, toss them around, and play with them a little bit, and maybe turn on a machine that I haven't used in a couple of years and see what happens. And more likely than not, after about a half hour or so of tinkering around, something starts to happen, like this. A molecule starts to develop, and that turns into a cluster of ideas and sounds and stuff. And all of a sudden you have a drum beat, then there's an idea for a bass line. And so typically within a couple of hours, a song is born. The question is, the next time I listen to it, will it still stand the test, so to speak. And
Yeah.
more often than not, it doesn't stand the test. So back to the drawing board.
I had this experience. I was talking to somebody this whole weekend. I've been working on a new album, or actually an EP, for a couple of years, and it's, for some reason, I had a lot going on in my life. I got stuck on the lyrics and the vocals, and so I've had the music done. And this weekend, I've had some extra time, had some inspiration, and other than last night, I think I hadn't slept in like about 48 hours because I was just in that creative zone and just working. And I was talking to a buddy, and he's like, "How's it sound?" I was like, "Well, it's 3 a.m. It sounds amazing. Let's see how it sounds at noon tomorrow."
Exactly.
Right. If I had to make a choice right now, it's perfect. But tomorrow, I think we're losing at least half of this.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean, lyrics and vocals for me are always the most important.
Okay.
And so that's that's really where things start to get dicey sometimes. I mean, developing a track is an easy thing, but to really marry the track to a vocal, that's where I really have to dig myself in.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. What you mentioned, pulling out a piece of gear that you haven't used in a while. When it comes to gear, are you loyal to any certain brands or machines? Is there one kind of go-to piece of equipment that you always start with?
No, I mean, I don't have that much pieces of gear, so to speak, anymore, but it might be Joe Mark's drum machine, or an abstract Avalon, or it might be an MS-20, like a Korg MS-20, or I have an old Juno floating around. So, I just take something out and I just sort of hook it up and see what happens.
That's awesome. I remember years ago when I was first starting out, it was before you and I had ever met or knew each other. But obviously, I was a fan of the band, and I saw, I think it was a photo, or I saw something where you had what was it, a quasi MIDI Sirius?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, again, learning how to make the music that I wanted to make and what equipment would do that. And so I was influenced by that. And I was like, well, if Sascha's using that, I should check that out. And I went and got one. And to this day, I think that's one of the most complicated synths I've ever owned. Like, just
Yeah. It's not very intuitive.
not at all.
Also, the Revolution that Quasimidi made. It was a cool machine, but it was really like, where to start,
Yeah. Yeah, I wound up, I collect synths, and so I wound up at some point I owned all of their line, and then I wound up selling them because, I love collecting them, but it gets to a point I was like, I haven't turned that thing on in 5 years. I should sell it, let somebody else enjoy it, replace it with something else,
Right.
So I wound up getting rid of all my quasi MIDI stuff.
Yeah, well, it's very cumbersome to schlep around all these analog boxes and then they break, and then, it's kind of like, I mean, one thing I have the advantage of having is a sample library of about 300 some songs.
Oh, wow.
So oftentimes, let's say I'm working on something, it's, let's just say it's an F sharp and it's 132 BPM. And I'm taking a little lunch break and I'm thinking, this reminds me of something.
Yeah,
and then maybe it dawns on me, and then maybe I go back to an album that maybe I made in 2011, and there's the musical piece that I really sort of associate with what I'm working on currently, but it's, say, in E, and it's at 140 BPM. So just import it, time stretch it, tune it, chop it up, and maybe use, out of an 8-bar piece, maybe I use 1.5 bars and loop them around, and then this becomes something totally, entirely different. But it comes out of the magic box, it's like where all the samples and all the drum loops are, and So that's really a good sort of treasure trove to have the ability to fall back on.
Yeah, I again, it was funny. I was talking that same friend I was talking about because I've been in the studio all weekend, and we were talking about one of the vocal things I did. I pitched it up to something that's not I'm not able to do live. It's out of my range. And we were talking. I was like, man, like 20, 15, even 15 years ago, to be able to pitch just something so easily and it doesn't change the tempo, and I can, if I don't like it, I hit a button and it's right back to where it was and nothing got erased or destroyed, you know?
Yep, it's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
technology, it's pretty good.
If you're enjoying the conversation, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube. You can also catch all of our past episodes and learn more at YesQuitYourDayJob.com. If you've got any questions, guest suggestions, or just want to say hi, send us an email at boss@YesQuitYourDayJob.com. We'd love to hear from you.
So you've kept this project alive for over 40 years, not just alive, but relevant. How do you keep, like, what keeps you inspired to keep pushing and keep staying current and relevant?
I don't know. It's just who I am. I guess it's like I can't just sort of dawdle my time away. I have a beautiful little recording studio, and I love to spend time in here. And so the first thing I do in the mornings is I go up and I have my coffee and check my mails and things like that. And then inevitably, I want to listen to something that I worked on maybe yesterday or maybe last week. And maybe there's a new idea and maybe I just get into it, and maybe it's 6 p.m. before I know it. And I
Right.
realize I forgot to eat my lunch and now it's dinner time, So that's how it goes.
Nice. Is there anything you still want to do with KMFDM that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, I want to go and do a big tour in East Asia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I want to
What,
really do a big tour in Japan, in China, Korea, and whatever else comes to mind.
wow. Have you toured those regions before? I'm assuming you have.
Never did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Never did. No. Want to go back to Australia. Want to go to Mexico. So yeah, I mean, in our business, as you know, we do not get a pension or anything. So I guess we have to work till we die,
It's very true.
So
When you look back at the catalog and your discography and your tours, you've obviously you've toured the world, and the fans, like, what are you most proud of everything you've done?
I don't know. I'm not really proud of things per se. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to do a lot of things, but pride is not really a feeling I can associate with or relate to. It's you can always do things better, so it's just great to have done them and that they were great. And so I mean, sometimes you do something and you have a feeling it's, oh my God, this is totally gonna sink to the bottom. And then the next day, someone in the newspaper writes, well, KMFDM was the highlight of the fucking year.
Wow. Yeah.
That's great, but it doesn't happen so often. Let me tell
Yeah.
you that.
I mean, I've had some moments like that where you do a show and it's like, it just wasn't your night, and getting off stage, and I was like, man, that was the worst performance I've ever given. That's the worst show I've ever done. And then the first couple of people you meet are telling you how it's the best thing they've ever seen and it's the best show they've ever seen. And
Yep.
um, I early on, I used to be like, no, that was terrible. And now I've stopped doing that. And I go, okay, I'm not going to, like, diminish it or take that away from them. If they think it was great, I know I could do better, and I'll just do better next time.
Yeah. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder anyway. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
people
Well,
love it.
Sascha, thank you for sharing your story and your insight. I think a lot of people listening will walk away inspired. And like, where can people find you online? Like, what are good ways to see what's coming next for KMFDM?
Well, I don't really have social media presence anymore.
Okay,
I found it to be quite tiring and irksome that, whatever you say, it's just, always turns into some sort of shitstorm of sorts. And so I really drastically reduced my online presence. I mean, I gave up my Twitter account the day that Lone Scum bought the place.
yep,
Um,
same.
Facebook, I'm just having basically access to the KMFDM Facebook site, so I'm posting tour dates and news about releases or so. If anything comes up, I'm still having, I think, access to private Facebook page, Sascha Konietzko, but it's pretty dead. Instagram, I'm not a fan of.
Okay,
So there's good old KMFDM.net, which every once in a while is being updated.
love
And
it.
so, yeah, actually, yes, I have to post the upcoming European tour dates on there very soon, and
Uh,
ticket links and all that stuff.
hopefully, I don't know. Obviously, if it is, it isn't announced, but I'm hoping there's some U.S. dates on that too. It'd be good to see you guys again.
Well, we're planning to do a couple of runs in the US next year.
Okay,
There's going to be some things in the making that I can't really talk yet about because they're not
sure.
officially announced. But
Yeah,
yeah, there's some very interesting stuff coming up.
I love that. And I have no doubt there always is. Um, quick lightning round. Just real quick questions. What is your favorite tour memory? Like weird or wild or just really good?
Who? That would be 2000 playing as second headliner at the Fuji Rock Fest in Japan.
Oh
We
wow,
played right before Asian Dub Foundation. We had a 7.5-foot guitar playing robot on stage. It was just friggin'
I
wild, man.
remember that now. Yeah,
That was cool.
I
That was
completely
cool.
yeah, I completely forgot about that till you just said that. Wait, I remember that. That's crazy. Um, what what's an album that you think people need to hear?
I don't know. Um, you mean by anyone?
Yeah, yeah.
I would say any album by Frank Zappa.
Okay. I I'd picked up a couple synclaviers a couple years ago, and I started diving really into Frank Zappa because he used a lot of the synclaviers on his stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if KMFDM had never happened, what do you think you would be doing today?
I'd be dead.
Oh no.
No, I'd be dead for sure.
Oh geez.
I would have found a way to not make it.
Ugh.
I don't know. I never wanted to be in a band. I never thought I would have a band or anything. It was, my passion was photography and art,
Oh, I
and
didn't know that.
somehow I got dragged into first performance art, and then I found my love for equipment and studio technology and all that kind of stuff. And here we are. It's was never it was never planned. That's why when I'm talking to people that are much younger than I am, and they ask me like, so how did this all come about? I have to be honest, and I have to say there's a shitload of luck and a lot of happening to be at the right place at the right time, and
Yeah.
a little bit of goodwill from some people. That a little bit of goodwill goes a long way. I mean, without Jim and Danny from Wax Tracks, KMFDM would have not really happened. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
without Al Jurgensen giving us a chance to even meet Jim and Danny and come to Chicago, it would have never happened. And so I'm always trying to give a little bit of that back, like
Yeah.
it's good karma to pass on the good things.
Well, and I would say you've accomplished that. I mean, just speaking personally, you took us on tour with you a couple times, and that really helped us. It helped our career and our presence with the band, but it was also um, you guys treated us so well. It was a really great experience.
Yeah, I mean that's I think that goes without saying that when you do a tour with people and it's why not treat them well? Why treat the people shitty? That was one of the first things that really struck me as bizarre in the US, that bands would be really sort of nasty to their fans. I mean, to me, it was when we played shows in Europe before we first came to America. And we were dependent on people, They gave us
Yeah,
a little money for gas, and they maybe let us sleep on a couch or on a floor somewhere.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so I was grateful that people would come to a show. I wouldn't throw shit in their faces or something, or
yeah,
I don't know, jump on them, beat them up or something. But that seemed to be quite common in the US. So I was like, weird, Maybe that's just some sort of rock star aspect, like, oh yeah, look at me, bleh, that kind of
yeah,
stuff. But I think that was also there was probably uh an aspect in KMFDM that we would not treat people like shit, and that we would be accessible, that we don't do VIP tickets. Everybody can talk to us, You just
yeah,
walk around the venue, you find a tour bus. Oh, look, there's Sascha. Oh, look, there's Lucia. You can approach us. We're nice, We're nice.
yeah.
And, I mean, unless you're weird and come across like dodgy, we're definitely nice. And I always bring people in, through the back door when they're too young to get a ticket or something, and they really want to see the show. I sneak them in and,
I
you
didn't
know,
know that.
give them merchandise and stuff. Yeah, I mean, give something back, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah, because we had definitely been on other tours that not saying they were mean to us, but they weren't very welcoming. We were just kind of like, they
Yeah.
we'd show up, for sound check, and we'd barely get a glance, and it just kind of point, okay, you're over there, and like, you
Yeah.
know, again, the contrast of going out with you guys, we felt like we were welcomed into a family, and we were, really a part of it. You guys really took care of us, so it was a
Well,
good
that's what we
experience.
do, That's after so many years, you have to do it in a way that it's comfortable for everyone. And hostility and sort of punishing people is not comfortable. It's just stupid.
Yeah. Last question. I always like to kind of turn the tables a little bit. If you had a question for me, what's one thing you'd want to ask?
Well, how come you're in a fancy studio in Los Angeles all of a sudden? Or not so all of a sudden.
Yeah. Um, so I'm actually in San Diego right now.
Ah,
But yeah, I don't know. I've been working in studios like pretty much my whole life, and
I didn't know that about you. I just
yeah,
recently started seeing Seven with this and that person, and I think you got an award recently for something,
yeah. I've
right?
I've been
Yeah,
lucky enough that I've been able to work with some really great artists, and it's kind of like you said, a little bit of luck, but it's also a little bit of intent behind it. Where I left Florida, the studio I worked at, they're closed, and I had some opportunities in LA, and
right,
um, I put in the work. I mean, I definitely, lots of work, very little sleep, and just saying yes to, being there, being reliable, showing up, doing a good job when I do. And I think those things led me to being included in some really great albums. And then it's a small industry. Everybody talks. So being on those albums, then their friends hear about me, and suddenly I'm only doing very large albums and working with very large artists. And so
right, right.
from doing that, I managed to get involved in some really great albums and get some plaques and some other awards and stuff like that. So it's the the recognition is great, and it's, I remember I went to school for audio engineering, and you walk down those halls, and you see all these platinum albums, and it's like, man, one day if I work really hard, one day maybe I'll get one of those. And
Right.
um, I just got my 56th, so I have a few of them now.
Holy shit, man. Good for you.
Yeah,
No, I mean, when I said about the good luck and being at the right place and time and stuff, of course, I forgot the hard work aspect. I mean, hard work definitely gets you
yeah.
somewhere. And,
The luck opens the doors, but it's that hard work and being
right.
prepared, and like you have to be ready to walk through that door when it opens. And I think that's where
Yes.
a lot of people fall short.
Yes. And also, it's about recognizing good opportunities and decline when bad opportunities come your way. So,
100%. That's something I think I've really honed in the last few years, where I can't explain it, and like, but there's some people that almost immediately I'll be like, I'm not interested in whether it's recording or producing or collaborating, where I'll just be like, politely just say I'm not interested in doing that. And
right, right.
people be like, why? Why don't you want to work with this person? And I never have a good reason. It's like, no, they're nice. They've never done anything to me, but there's this gut instinctual feeling that that's not something I want to be a part of, And I
Yep.
think following those instincts instead of being polite and going, oh, well, let me wait till I have a reason, wait till they've done something for me to be able to justify not to say no to this. But instead of, I trust that instinct before I get bit, so to speak. And I just,
Yeah.
I'm not interested. And, yeah, it's been working well for me, actually.
Hey, Seven, what's that thing behind you on the wall? It says 105016061.
Oh yeah.
What is
Yeah.
that?
So there's a company called Muso.ai. You can kind of see it right there. And what they do is they track your credits. Um,
Huh,
so for me, I working with a lot of different artists, and so I worked at a studio. I was the in-house engineer, and so I worked on whatever was on my schedule that day, right?
right.
And sometimes I knew the artist, sometimes I didn't. Especially it was a lot of hip hop and pop, and which isn't necessarily like I'm in that world as an engineer, but it's not stuff I listen to where I necessarily know who an artist is, like as much as our interns are like, oh man, that's so and so coming in. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right, right, right.
Um, so what happened is I'd done that, and I, I didn't. Yeah, I might not remember who I worked with 6 years earlier, or what song that was, or what we had a working title. What was it even released as, and what happened with that song? And so that company, they track those streams and keep track of yeah, basically global streams on that stuff, so you can kind of see how many plays you're getting. And so that's a plaque of my total streams with everything I've worked on all
Wow.
combined across all platforms. So Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you know.
And is this updating or is it just like a plaque?
It that's just a plaque. That's
Okay.
acrylic.
Oh, okay.
Um, I'm actually interviewing one of the founders of that company here in a couple weeks, and they're presenting me with an updated plaque. Because
Cool.
yeah, this one's at 105, and I think it's up to 115 now.
All
Um,
right.
what was it at? It was at, does it say how many?
Looks like 105 billion.
Yeah, but I it oh just 523 credits, and now it's at like 589 or 590.
Cool.
So yeah, that's what that
Congrats, man.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, definitely check that site out. I'll send you a link if you want. But it's
Please, yeah.
for me it was a good way because I had in like 2018 I'd gotten really burnt out like in the studio as an engineer, and I left the studio I was working at. And I kind of like took a little bit of a break. Um, and I went to Apple. I was working with Apple, and I didn't it had such a bad taste in my mouth, the toxicity of the environment I was in, that I didn't pay any attention to what those albums did or anything. I had no idea. And then when I was
Hmm.
starting to like kind of put things together and shape what I wanted to do career wise, a little bit of a shift and get back into music full time, I was like, man, I probably have like 1 or 2 platinum albums. I worked with some really big artists. And I've heard the songs like at the gas station or walking in the mall. I was like, oh, I worked on that. So I know they're doing something. I should
Right.
probably look into like see what those have done. And then as I went through that process of tracking them down and contacting the RIAA and ordering the plaques and all that kind of stuff, I realized like, oh, these albums did really well.
Oh, that's cool. I'd be really
Yeah.
interested to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, I got paid as an engineer. I was paid hourly. So no matter how high that number goes, I'm not getting any money off it.
I hear you,
But
man.
even if it was a penny an album, penny a song or whatever, I'd love to have 105 billion pennies.
Yeah, not bad.
Well,
Not
cool.
bad. I'm really happy for you, man. That's really good.
I
I love it.
appreciate it, man. Yeah. And, I'll send you that link. And, I think we talked a little bit, but yeah, any opportunity to collaborate and stuff, anything you need from me, I'm always here.
Great. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, Sascha, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been a pleasure, and look
Thank
forward
you,
to seeing
Sam.
everything coming.
My pleasure entirely. Peace.
Bye.
And talk soon.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Yes, Quit Your Day Job. A massive thank you to Sascha Konietzko for sharing his insights and speaking with Seven about his journey. And don't forget, stream KMFDM and follow them on all social media. And as always, if you found value in today's episode, share it with a friend, tag us online, and leave a review. Until next time, keep creating, keep showing up, and don't be afraid to quit your day job.